On this week's episode of EIE Radio, I sit down with former Major League Baseball player Ben Petrick to talk about how his faith grew over time and how it's grown even more since being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
Welcome to EIE Radio, encouraging, inspiring, and equipping Christians to stand for truth and reach the lost. Now, here's your host, Neil Hess.
All right, welcome to this week's edition of EIE Radio, and I have Ben Petrick on the line here, and he's a former Major League Baseball player and has quite an interesting story. And so, Ben, let's just get right into it, I guess. I was wondering if you could just give us your testimony.
Well, I mean, for me, my testimony, I've always been a believer. I've always gone to church. I grew up, my parents had us going to church every Sunday, and so I've grown up with my faith. And but it wasn't really until I got my adulthood and my professional baseball career and my post baseball career that I've kind of developed a personal relationship with Christ. And so I really didn't really get serious at things where I sought out a relationship with Christ until my life was basically almost over. When I had a brain surgery for my Parkinson's, and I had a massive infection in my brain. Went through a really ugly time in the hospital, and I was down my last breath. I felt like I was ready to just shut it down, and it was like God had to take me as low as He could get me to let me finally let go and just give up my control of my life to God and just give it up, man, and trust in Him completely, and it's kind of changed my life. That's been the last 2.5 years, 3 years.
All right. So you said you grew up going to church, and you've always been in the faith to one level or another. And I was wondering what your how did your faith did you find it interweaving with baseball, like when you were in high school and college, or were those kind of separate for you?
Well, I mean, my faith and my beliefs have always been my backbone. My morals have always been, pretty darn strong, and I've always felt like, God's with me all the time. That I've always prayed. I've always done that kind of stuff. I've just never really advertised it, more or less, to people and been outspoken about it, and somewhat uncomfortable to talk about openly. And so, through my high school career and into my professional ranks, I always went to chapel. Baseball, I always did the right church things, but I wasn't really professing my faith and just being outward with it. So, it's been really interesting and really good for me the last couple of years to really blossom with my faith.
Okay.
But with baseball, it was there, but it wasn't really there. I don't know.
So it was there, but it was kind of it was more subdued, kind of more subtle. It wasn't kind of really outspoken like a Tim Tebow kind of a thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And so, what were some of the challenges you faced in addition to Parkinson's being in the majors? Like, I can only think, like when you kind of get that, professional athlete status, I can only imagine like the temptations and the struggles and stuff like that come along with it.
Sure. There's temptations around every corner. It's pretty crazy. The lifestyle is it's awesome, but it's also there's road trips. There's you can get yourself in trouble if you're not looking out, and so. That's kind of like where I said my faith is kind of my backbone, my morals. Like it always kept me in check. And not to say that I wasn't that I was perfect by any means, and no one is, and everyone sins. But
yeah.
I think that for the most part, I was pretty in check with everything, and when I'd pray about things. But at the same time, I was still out living my life and doing things that young adolescent kids and young adults do. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Okay. And when you first learned about your Parkinson's really early on, I mean, Parkinson's we typically think of, as settling in kind of when somebody's in their senior years, but yours set in, I believe you were in your mid-20s, is that right?
I was 22 when I got my first symptom. Yeah.
22, wow. So when you first got the news, like what did go through your mind? I think some people kind of react, they say like, okay, well, I'm putting my faith in God. Some people kind of have like a rebellious reaction to it.
Yeah.
Like, how could God let this happen? Like, was that one of yours or was it somewhere in between?
I honestly never even was like, why God, why me? I never ever really felt like that. I've always just kind of taken it as it is, and it's almost like I've kind of just felt from the beginning that there's a plan for me. Although I didn't really trust in Him, I just felt like I always felt like that why not me? Why am I so much better than anybody else that for some reason I shouldn't get the disease,
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been somewhat at peace with having the disease, although at times it's made it difficult to live my daily life and try to be. I've always been concerned too much about what people think of me, my outward appearance and whatnot, and so one of the things that's been really nice in letting go of my vanity and just my control that I thought I was having on my life is that I don't have those stresses and concerns nearly as much as I used to. I can't say that I'm 100% perfect and not stressed about certain things, but it's so much less of a burden on me now than it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a great change.
So you would say that really, like, then on a kind of a personal level that you've actually gone through like a lot of growth. Then is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean the disease has been difficult, but it's not something I wish on anybody, and it's been negative in my life, but it's also been a positive, and that's kind of how I choose to kind of look at it. That if I dwell on the negatives about it, then I can just be a negative person daily, or I can be focused on the positive things that have come from Parkinson's, and the good changes that have happened in my life from it, and that's just the way I go with it.
Okay. And so, right before you went in for the surgery, now could you explain the surgery for
Sure.
people out there? Because I'm not sure I entirely understand it either.
So it's called deep brain stimulation, and what they do is you go into the operating room awake, and they drill a couple holes in your head, and they run a lead, what they call lead electrode, down your middle of your brain, and they do two of them, one for each side of your body, and they run those wires out of your head and tunnel them under your skin and put a pacemaker type thing in your chest, and that device will they can set it at certain settings to where the electrical stimulation will kind of counteract the messed up signals that are being sent because of the lack of dopamine in your brain with Parkinson's.
Okay.
And so it smooths out the symptoms, more or less.
Okay, so it kind of like anticipates the electric signals that are going to be sent, and then it kind of counteracts them?
Yeah, the dopamine basically is like the oil in your engine.
Okay.
It kind of keeps there's neurons firing all the time in your brain, and without dopamine, those aren't being being recognized or whatever, and so they're causing the tremors and the rigidity and the bad symptoms with Parkinson's, and so the electrical stimulation kind of just receives those signals and kind of somehow smooths it all, not all of it out, because I still have symptoms, but it's much improved.
Yeah, I was going to say I saw the video that ESPN did on you, their E60 episode, which I would recommend to anyone listening to this to go out and take a look. It's really great overview, but the difference even in your gait, the way you walked, it was dramatically different before and after surgery, from what I was seeing at least.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to have it tinkered with, they call it programmed. just to find the right settings and whatnot. And I've had to go on a number of times to find the right setting, the best setting for me. And then you kind of juggle medication with it. So I mean, I'm not the same as I was right after surgery, but I'm way better than I was before surgery.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm very happy with the results.
All right. And so, in your life since surgery, it's been. I mean, obviously, it sounds like it's much better. What are the biggest things, like the things that I guess you appreciate, or the most positive effects that you've noticed since surgery?
Well, my physical symptoms are the thing that I notice automatically, but just because I'm not moving all over the place and I'm not frozen when my medication isn't working, I'm not totally stuck in a chair. So I have a little bit more of a normal life, even though it's far from. I take medication all day long to function, but it's had such a positive effect on my life that therefore it affects my family's life and my wife and my relationship. My kids, I can do more with my kids. We had the confidence to go ahead and attempt to have another child, which we did. So we have an 8-month-old little girl, and so it's been a tremendous blessing. When I went in for our first surgery, I was freaking out, man. I was trying to trust, and just praying, I was doing it, but I wasn't really doing that. It was kind of the same as baseball when I was playing, and I was in an 0 for streak, and I was like, God, come on, man, help me out. Give me a couple base hits tomorrow. But I wasn't really fulfilling my end of the bargain. And so it was kind of like that same thing with the first surgery. And then when I went through the infection from the first surgery and I decided to have it done again, at the second surgery, I was in such a better place mentally and with my faith. It was so much more trusting and just I was at ease at the surgery. And even though I knew that it could almost kill me, I was like, this is meant to be. And he has got a plan for me, and so my life post surgery has been dramatically changed for the better, and it's such a blessing for my family and myself just to be able to have the opportunity to be able to have the surgery for one, but then to get the results that I've gotten. It's just been, man, so thankful because I can do things that I'd never done before as a dad, and taking care of my kids in the middle of the night. Most parents can relate to the nights when your child's crying and they had a bad dream or whatever, and they're yelling for you or something. And I was never able to do that for the first 2.5 years of my kid's life, my daughter's life, because I was immobile at night. I didn't take medication, so I was pretty much in lockdown, and so now I'm able to do that, and I'm actually happy to be able to do that, rather than upset because I can do it actually. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, and now you recently released a book called 40,001. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so, what is the general overview of that book?
It's more or less a book of short stories from my life, from high school to current, and kind of goes through the ups and downs of my life and the positives and negatives that I've experienced both in baseball and with Parkinson's disease. And it's just, that's more or less what it is. And I've gotten some great feedback. It's the title 40,001 is from the idea that my job in my life was kind of, my main focus was around my baseball career, which had me playing in front of 40,000 fans, to my main job in life after I retired from Parkinson's, and I was being a stay-at-home dad with my little girl, and that's my one in the 40,001. So, but it's doing well on Amazon. You can get it on my website, benpetrick.com, and it's been a great adventure for me to write a book. I mean, very therapeutic to go through all this, rehash all the stories and talk about that kind of stuff. It's good.
I can imagine. And just for the listeners' sake, too, we were going to have an autographed book giveaway, too. You can check out the website, eieradio.com, for the information on that. Now, you also have a blog called Faith in the Game. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the obviously Faith in the Game, I'm assuming, is something with faith in sports?
Yeah, and we've kind of been slow in doing stuff recently because of all the chaos with my book and the ESPN thing, and so we haven't done much on it lately. But the Faith in the Game is more or less just, stories from my life as well as other athletes, professional athletes and amateur athletes. I think we have a couple Olympians. Mm-hmm. They've shared their story of faith, more or less just faith in their life, and how it's played a role in their life. And so we just kind of share, athletes' lives, their faith, and on Facebook we also will post articles about athletes in different circumstances where their faith is very apparent and influencing their life in sports, and so that's what it is.
Okay. And what is, I guess, if you had, 10 minutes to speak to the whole world, what is the message? Would be your message to them, or what would you want to tell people?
Well, I mean, I think overall is just my overall message that I talk about, that I want to get across in my book, and just anything that I've done, interviews I've done is, life is so precious, and we get so caught up in the world and the fast, all the things that keep us going, all the phones, and just doing all these different things to live life the way it is now. Try to slow down and smell the roses, man. Just try to spend more quality time with your kids, and just cherish the moments you have every day now. I think, I'm not I don't usually go out preaching my faith, but since this is, a faith-based interview, I mean, it's just, for me, in my life, my faith has been instrumental, especially the last few years, as far as keeping me stable, keeping my wife and I in check, and just keeping us in a good relationship, and I just feel like, if you trust in God, then He can do wonderful things, and just to keep on keeping on. I mean, that's, be a positive person, and just do the best you can, live in your life, and try to pass on to your kids, being a good dad, and use God. Sorry.
No problem.
So, I mean, just living your life to its fullest, not taking things for granted, because you never know what tomorrow has in store.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said, so your website is benpetrick.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if people want to get in touch with you, that's the best channel to kind of go through there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ben. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we will be keeping you and your family in our prayers. And God bless, brother, and keep fighting.
Thanks, Neil. Appreciate it.
All right, God bless. I want to thank all of you out there for listening this week, and encourage you to check out the website. We're going to be giving away a free copy of Ben Petrick's book, 40,001, and this copy is special because it'll be autographed by Ben himself. So if you're interested in getting a hold of that, make sure you go to eieradio.com and check out the sign-up page for that. And until next week, go out there, stand for truth, reach the lost. God bless. Thank you for listening to this episode of the EIE Radio Podcast. If you would like to make sure that this podcast stays on the air, please check out the Support Us page at eieradio.com to find out how you can help us in our continuing mission to help Christians stand for truth and reach the lost.